All right, Brendan Gallagher is with us. You may know him from playing in the NHL, but we know him as a baseball fan and as a diehard Blue Jays fan, in fact. So, Brendan, thanks so much for joining us. Just tell us kind of the history of you in the sport and the backstory, and how you started to love it, and what it means to you today.
Yeah, I've loved ball my whole life. Probably more so than hockey. I just happened to be better at hockey. When it was summertime and it was time for baseball, those were some of the best days of my childhood. It was always kind of my mom's sport, so it was a way for her to connect to it. And growing up, I played right up until I was about 16 years old, and I kind of had to stop for junior hockey. But loved the game, loved everything about it. The relaxed kind of style, and then the intensity that comes with it at the same time. It was something that I really just fell in love with from day one.
Awesome. Well, you're definitely speaking to a couple of big baseball fans here. But I'd love to hear your scouting report of yourself as a baseball player, because we've obviously seen you on the ice. We know what kind of hockey player you are. But as a ball player, what were you like?
Obviously not good enough, but no, fast. Usually hit at the top of the
Yeah.
order. Played shortstop, played a little catcher. I kind of loved, being involved in the action. I didn't love hanging out in the field all that much, but it was. I still do play a little bit slow pitch, but it's co-ed with my sister, so I put up some good numbers in that league, but for the
Nice.
most part, my baseball career wasn't very good, but just loved the game.
So you were looking. Go ahead,
So
Ben.
I was just gonna say. So I'm trying to picture you as a ball player. So you're a right-handed thrower,
Right-handed, yeah, right-handed thrower. Uh,
and then
I hit
hitting.
right-handed, do everything pretty much right-handed. So,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't hit too many home runs. Had a couple, but not too many. It was more so there to get on base and you know see what I could do.
Ben's trying to figure out where to put
Nice.
you on his draft board right now. He's
Maybe
Yeah.
I,
Exactly.
I'd be more
Yeah.
comfortable down at the bottom. Maybe sneak me in. Maybe I could be a
Yeah.
sleeper. Don't want the expectations.
How did you find the
Yeah.
difference in the physical grind between baseball and hockey? I mean, how did that kind of hold up for you?
I mean, that's why baseball was so perfect for me. Obviously the way I play in hockey, I get beat up quite a bit. I have to play a physical brand. I also played a little bit of lacrosse. My dad got me out of that pretty quickly. It was just too much on my body, going winter, summer, hockey, lacrosse, but going to ball. It was a way for me, be active, play sports, which I think is so important no matter what sport you are. Just to play all sports to kind of it makes you a better athlete, but it gives you an understanding of different things needed. And the comparison with hockey to ball was, obviously a less physical sport, but a sport that I felt like I was able to compete at and still bring up the competitive juices. So, like I said, right from day one, just really fell in love with the game.
That's awesome. So, as a hockey player to be a fan of the Jays, it doesn't strike me as like you're. It seems that there are a lot of hockey players who are Jays fans, and that's me from the outside looking in. But do you think that's accurate? Because I get the sense that there are a fair number, like that the Jays might actually be quite a popular team within the NHL.
Especially in Canada, I think for any kid growing up in Canada, you talked about on our team. We were a pretty good team for talking ball. Shea Weber's a huge Jays fan. Jeff Petrie, who's
Nice.
dad Dan, was obviously an all-star, and it was pretty cool last year. He
Right.
took us out to batting practice at the Tigers spring training facility, and he threw some pitches to us, and couldn't have been more impressed with his stamina. He threw well over 100 pitches to us because we just couldn't get enough of it. And,
Wow.
but in our locker room, definitely a lot of Jays fans. A little bit other stuff for the most part. It's mostly Jays.
So you're dealing with the recovery process right now from a thumb issue, and I'm curious if you can kind of relate to what's happening in MLB this season. Like we've seen injuries, just like crazy with every team, and it's such a demanding sport playing it every day. I wonder if just being a professional athlete, sort of relate a bit more than the common fan to what a lot of these guys are going through.
Yeah, I think in a sense, it was almost predictable. It was predictable for us. Our team's going through it, and I think in baseball as well. Whenever you don't have a normal off season like we've had, you don't have a normal training camp or spring training, like they've been used to for so many years. Your body just it relies on these things and it gets accustomed to these things. So I think the injuries were something that it sucks to say, but I think it's probably a little bit predictable and something that as athletes you just kind of got to deal with and handle with the best you can.
But how tough is it when your training like
In
that is
baseball,
disrupted, right? You're not in your normal routine. Like I think we're seeing that a
Oh,
lot with baseball players.
yeah, it's the hardest thing for us. We're such a creature of habit. You do the same thing day after day for pretty much your whole lives. And then when you get taken out of that, and especially when injuries happen, the mental side of it is, it's really tough. So, going through a little bit myself right now, and that's pretty much relatable through all sports is, when you are hurt, the process of getting back to 100%, it's wearing on you, and it's definitely tough, and probably the worst thing that we have to go through, which, for every, in the big scheme of things isn't the worst thing, but for us, it's not the funnest.
In the trends in the game in baseball, it seems like there's almost this push toward max effort, where it's like in the past they might have had pitchers going out there, they throw 125 pitches, but they're not going like super max effort each time. But now it's like, as I mean, they're just throwing 95 with these crazy sliders. They never take a play off. Is there a comparison to that in hockey? Like certainly when I watch, it seems like the game is so fast, so intense. Is there a
I
shift
think
that's
players are
happening there
just
as
getting
well?
better and better. There's just so much more information and knowledge,
Yeah.
throughout all sports, and kids are coming up and they're better than they were each and every single year. The training opportunities and the information that they have, it's competitive, and guys, you really don't want to lose your spot. So, the competitive juices that we all have as athletes, it's going to show, and guys are kind of forced to work for your job every single night, and I think that raises the level of play for the fans for sure. I think you get to see a high caliber game each night. And, for the players, I think there's that sense of urgency that you don't want some kid coming up and showing you up. So you gotta kind of leave it all on the ice for us or the field for them.
How different is the recovery aspect nowadays than maybe it was when you were in junior or first breaking in? Thinking about how you sleep, how you eat, all those
Ooh.
kinds of
I
things.
mean, I'm sure baseball's the same way, but we've started hiring people for all these positions. You have nutritionists, you have doctors that are on call and they're available if you're having trouble sleeping. They'll take care of that. They'll give you something to help you out if you getting back from injuries, speeding those things up, and the nutritionist side of things. There's so many different things that teams are looking to get a little bit of an edge, that they're hiring people for these positions to specifically talk about. And if players ever have these questions or concerns, it couldn't be easier to use these people that are put in these positions.
That's awesome. And so, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like you're a pretty big sports fan across the board.
Oh yeah.
I'm seeing maybe a Tiger Woods hat on you right now. I've seen I've seen a Cincinnati Bengals tweet or two on your Twitter account. And obviously, you're a Jays fan, a baseball fan. So I'm just wondering, like, when you're watching a sport, whatever it is, it's not hockey. Let's set hockey aside. But if you're watching another sport, what is it that you're watching for? Like, what are the little things that you kind of
For
zone in
me,
on and
it's
try to
nice
watch
watching all these
for?
other sports because you get to feel what the fans are like. Especially playing in Montreal here, we kind of understand, how
Yeah.
passionate they are about our teams, and you kind of get to feel these same feelings that they're feeling for these other teams. And when I'm watching players, you really just want to see that they, I talk about this a lot, but that they compete and that they care. Mistakes are going to happen out there, but when you get a player playing for your team that kind of leaves it all out there and will really just give it his all, you never blame a guy for a mistake, but you can blame a guy for effort. And when you're cheering for these guys and they really are, playing to, give you joy, but trying to win, it's something I like rooting for.
So when you're watching baseball, what are some of the competitive aspects that kind of you admire most? Like as an athlete, like what sort of impresses you most about how baseball athletes perform?
I love the strategy behind the game, but I love seeing a guy bust to first base and try to beat out an infield single, especially the star players because they don't have to. But it's something you look for. You'd just like to see the hustle and the strategy come into play. I think it's, as a fan, that's something that you can appreciate when you're an athlete in another sport. Sometimes things aren't always going right, but if you can see a guy, even if he lent and moves up a teammate or, maybe grounds out, but to the right side of the field so the player can move up, it's just little things like that, I take appreciation for because, it's not going to help his stats, but he's kind of, just trying to win a game. And as fans, that's really all you want.
For sure. So to this point in the season, Jays have been winning more than they've been losing. They're playing pretty well. I'd love to hear your impressions.
Well, they're
What's
hanging
what's
around. They've had,
your take on this
a ton of
2021 team?
injuries they've had to deal with, and they're just
Yeah.
kind of sniffing around. I think the Red Sox are leading the division right now. Hopefully they can come back to us, and then that pack is all there. So it's right there for them. Get healthy. I think all his fans have a lot of confidence in this lineup. So they're fun to watch every night. They're entertaining, they're exciting, and I think this is a team that can win.
So let's be honest now, as a Blue Jays fan, coming out of 15 and 16 and the little bit of the teardown, the little rebuild the club went through, did you keep the faith and did you believe in the
Well,
plan?
I'm a fan of, you mentioned I'm a fan of the Bengals, so I'm a fan of some pretty poor sports fans, but I always believe in them no matter what. So I did, but I also had my doubts. I mean, I was a huge Josh Donaldson fan. I think everyone was. For what he brought the city, and there's just so many plays. You talk about the hustle and the talent level. So seeing him go with stuff, but they brought in a bunch of young players that now you kind of feel the same way about. So I believed, had my doubts, like any fan does, but you just trust the process, and those guys are paid quite a fair amount of money to make those decisions, not us. So I just cheer them on.
For sure. So do you have, like, among the kind of young core that's emerged since that last team with Batista and Donaldson and Eddie, now they've got Vlad and they've got Bo and Pearson and Ryu. Any of those guys kind of jump
Yeah,
out to you? Like
I
if
think
you're
I'm a
buying a
Bo
Jays
Bichette
jersey,
guy.
for
I
example,
like
like
the
what
way
are
he
you kind of
plays.
looking for?
Does a little bit of everything. So he's entertaining to watch.
Nice.
Brings some pop, hits the ball well. I know he's had a tough year, but he'll be a decent fielder. Made some errors, but I'm not holding that against him. I think, that's the kind of guy that I'll probably cheer
Yeah.
for going forward.
I think a lot of longtime baseball fans are kind of having trouble watching the game these days with the amount of bullpenning and the amount of interruptions in play and everything like that. I mean, how have you kind of found the experience of just watching a game with pitching changes and with how strategy is changing and how it's kind of evolving in 2021?
I always get frustrated when people say they need to speed the game up. It's not what baseball's about. You either watch the game. 3 hours, 3.5 hours for me. I do like the rule where the pitcher has to come in and face three batters. I do like that. The extra innings rules, I don't know. I know that's there to speed it up for the playoffs, but I'm kind of impartial on that. For the most part, I enjoy the strategy. If you put yourself in that situation, if they were shifting against you, you'd like to think you could beat it. It's a challenge. That stuff is that all the specialist pitchers that come in, it's a challenge for you as an athlete. So you like to think that these guys feel the same way and find a way to beat it. I've had a lot of downtime.
So in the course of, it sounds like you're watching a lot of baseball, and at this, good, making the most of it. Making the most of it. That's awesome. But you guys are in your season. Then hopefully your playoff run goes on, and then you'll have summer where you can really focus on, or let baseball take over your life as much as you want it to. So what are your favorite ways, in the course of a long season to enjoy it? Is it kicking back with a couple beverages?
I love
Is it
being at the
going to
ballpark.
ballpark?
Our family actually has
What do you
taken,
kind of go to?
pre-COVID, we used to take trips every year to go watch the Jays. So we went on a streak there. We saw a lot of World Series championship teams. We went to Wrigley, went to Fenway, we went to Houston, been to Seattle because it's just a quick drive down from Vancouver where I spend my time. So we've seen
Nice.
the Jays play in these parks, and it's so cool how the Jays fans travel. Everyone there is wearing their blue, and it's just a fun atmosphere to be a part of. So if I can be at the park, usually don't stay in your seat. I like to kind of move around and taking the game from different areas, but it's it's fun to be there.
Yeah.
So what's your top park
I
What's your top park then that you've been
I get
to?
asked this a lot.
Tough
I
to
think
beat
it's
the ballpark.
Wrigley. We all said the same thing when you walked in there. It just felt like a ballpark. It smelled like a ballpark. The fans were, they were awesome to us. They treated us great. Probably because they were much better. We weren't much of a threat to them that year, but they made it fun. It was a fun trip. I mean, we've had fun everywhere we've gone, but we loved Wrigley probably the most.
So, in baseball, the ballparks are such a big part of the experience. And like you're talking about going on trips to see the ballparks and see these teams. Certainly, I've gone on ballpark trips, and it's such a fun part of the experience is just to see that. Is there an analog to that in hockey? Like, do hockey, is that as much a part of it? And I guess, what's your favorite hockey arena aside from the Bell Center, which we'll make that your number
Yeah,
one? But
it's
is
I
there
love
another one that you've played
playing
in
in
ever that
Boston
you
at
kind
TD
of gravitate
Gardens.
toward?
There are Habs fans there, but the Bruins fans make it fun because of the hatred they have. There's just such a rivalry between the two teams, and as players, you can feel it from the fans. Toronto's a little bit the same way for us
Yeah.
when we go, but it's nothing really compares to Boston. I think the Boston fans are they're kind of in a world of their own for us, and our fans travel pretty good no matter where we go. But when we go to Boston, they have to be a little bit quieter because the Boston faithful kind of take over. So it's fun as a player to have the opportunity to kind of shut them up.
I'm sure when you're on the ice and you're kind of in the heat of the moment, you're not hearing the crowd at all. But I feel like for, an MLB outfielder, it's kind of hard not to hear the crowd and not to hear the chirps in certain places.
A
Do you
little
relate to
bit.
that a little bit?
I would say the comparable for us is when you take a penalty and you go sit in the box for a couple minutes. That's when the fans can really let you know. On the bench, you're kind of protected. There's a little bit of distance, but when you're in that penalty box, it's you all alone in there. The team's in your zone for 2 minutes, and I've heard it a few times. The chirps that you get, and you never want to be there, but it's pretty funny at the same time.
That's awesome. So, you mentioned the fans, and obviously it's been so different, and nobody wants, fans to have to miss out on the experience of seeing ball games or hockey games in person. Hopefully that can safely be done at some point. But how much of an adjustment was that for you to get used to playing in arenas where, your whole
Yeah,
life, I guess, probably since you were a teenager, you're
as
playing
much as you
full
do it,
places,
you get a
and
little bit
now
used
it's
to it,
like
but you never
very
really fully
distant.
adjust. I mean, especially playing at the Bell Center in Montreal. It's probably the loudest rink in the league. So you just can't compare anything to stepping on the ice, especially come playoff time with a full building. So last year, the playoff bubble, the intensity of the games are obviously high enough to keep you engaged, but you take out that aspects of fans, it's just not as cool. So we're definitely looking forward to getting back to full buildings, and hopefully sooner rather than later we can play in front of them again.
Well, I wonder if you're looking forward to this or not, because you haven't had people like me and Ben in your space in the dressing room in a little while, and that's probably a bit of a nice thing for you guys. Are you going to be able to go back to having the media around and
Yeah,
as
we've
much of a
we've talked
presence
about
as
how
we
much
once
we've
were?
enjoyed that and how we can keep we do they take us aside, we do our press conferences, and the questions are always a little bit shorter, and you got a little bit more space to breathe. It's a little bit more relaxed. It's kind of yours, but I'm sure when the media get back in the room, we'll handle it properly. But we've kind of enjoyed the away time.
Yeah, it's obviously one of those things that you could never have anticipated, but I guess in so many ways everything has shifted. Have you, in the course of I guess the last 18 months or so, have there been any other
There's so
like
much
habits
we're
personally
looking
for
forward to getting
yourself or
rid
with the
of.
team that you guys think you
Honestly,
might hold on to and
I'm
carry
not
forward
sure. I
beyond COVID?
think. Uh, Yeah, maybe not, honestly. I think, there's
Yeah,
just things that we miss. Going on the road and going to dinner with the guys. It's little things like that
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
that make playing in the NHL so cool. You get to go to these different restaurants
yeah.
and spend this time with the guys. You get to hang around the locker room a little bit more, without masks on. So there's just so much I think we're looking forward to getting rid of. We might not keep any of it.
I wonder if at the same time a little bit less travel is maybe something you've felt in a positive way on your body at all in terms of fewer flights or fewer time zone hopping around.
Yeah,
Like,
I
is
think
that
that's
something has
something
that
we
been an
actually
impact for you?
we've talked about with our PA, and we're discussing if it's possible going forward. Is the base schedule is maybe not playing a team 3-4 times, but you can play them twice in a row in the same building and limit the travel. I think as players, that is something we've appreciated. It's been it's nice kind of getting settled in a city and being able to spend a few nights there. So I think going forward as players, that's something we'd be open to.
And with the North Division, it seems like that was kind of a one-off. But there was initially this like huge amount of novelty, and it was the coolest thing that it was all Canadian teams. especially for Canadian hockey
Oh yeah,
fans.
not only that. I mean,
As
you
a
turn on
player,
the
did it
TV
kind of
and it's
get
the
like,
same teams
okay,
on the
we're seeing
highlights.
these
It's the
guys
same guys you
again?
play.
Like,
I mean, you
did
play a
it get
team
repetitive at all?
9 times. It's you just develop this hatred for them. So it's it's fun come playoff time, but for the regular season, I think it was a grind for sure. We've enjoyed it. It's been fun. I think
Yeah.
it's been great for the fans to get engaged, and it has created a lot. But it's a lot seeing a team that many times for sure.
With the playoffs starting up here in about a week or two, is there anything from last year's experience that you think can be kind of carried forward and applied
Absolutely.
to this year's postseason?
That's what you have to learn from. There was a style of play that we brought to our game, specifically for playoff hockey, and we had guys step up and feel comfortable in those opportunities. So going forward, you rely on all that experience. It's such a hard trophy to win. You got to go through such a grind that you need to learn from every opportunity that you have. And unfortunately, when you lose, it's probably when you learn the most. So I think you learn a lot about your team. You learn a lot about yourself individually, and you just try to take that into the next year.
Last one for me, but I don't want to let you go without asking you because you've seen these guys take some swings in some cases. You know which hockey players are the best all around athletes. Are there any hockey players that stand out in your mind as guys who actually could? I'm not saying like step onto a major league field today and
Well, if
be a
I had to
major
pick a
league
major
player,
league
but
player,
would have
I'd say
that
Jeff
skill set
Petrie,
that if they had
just
gone down
because
that path, maybe they could be
the
major league
Petrie
players.
genes, and he played a lot of ball growing up, and the other guy on our team, Shea
Yeah,
Weber's an unbelievable athlete. I don't know about now; he's
yeah,
getting older. His body might not be able to handle it, but you watch him throw a football or hit a baseball or throw like he just does everything well, and
yeah.
I hate saying this, and I hope he never hears it, but he's he's a hell of an athlete. So I think if I had to pick a guy, it'd be one of those two.
I don't know if you know Steven Stamkos at all, but I think he took BP a
Yeah,
couple
I've
summers ago
seen
and
some
actually like
clips of
hit a
that. There's
couple
no
net.
doubt in my
I don't
mind.
know if you
Webb's,
saw
I've seen him
that.
hit a ball. He mashes a baseball. When we did batting practice there with Dan,
Yeah.
it was every third, fourth pitch was gone, and then he got in a groove. So it was he can crush a baseball pretty good. Petey got one out as well. So it was those two guys they're pretty good athletes. Yeah, that's
It's a little
exactly.
harder
I
when they
think he'd
start
have.
spinning it
I
though,
don't know
when
if
the
he'd make
curveballs start
contact, but if he
coming
does,
in.
it's going a long way.
Well, we thank you for your time. You can get Brendan on Twitter at
Awesome.
BGalley17,
Thanks,
and
guys.
best of luck in the playoffs, my man. Thanks so much.
Cool.